In this video, I'll cover, to me, what are some recognizable indicators that I'm becoming stressed or I experience stress. I'll talk a little bit about where it comes from, and finally, how I try and get rid of it. And I say that as someone who's both studying for a master's degree, working a consultancy job, and starting my own business. I speak from my own experience. Of course, this is just personal experience. It's not backed by some kind of research. Take whatever you want from this. But I want to share my 2 cents of what I think works, if it can have any value and help for you. And so personally, to me, some of the recognizable indicators that I feel stressed or that I'm going through something stressful is oftentimes this kind of like suffocating experience. Saying this as someone who's not had any kind of panic attack and severe anxiety, I would kind of compare it to like slight anxiety and then combined with this like suffocating experience. I become very numb to emotions when I'm stressed. I do everything logically and I don't have a lot of empathy. And sometimes the easiest of tasks or workouts or things I've had to do feel incredibly difficult when I know they shouldn't. And so those are some of the key things that I start to notice. And I will add to this that the more times I've gone through stressful periods and had that stress, recognized it and dealt with it, the better I become at recognizing and dealing with it before it becomes, a lot or affects my daily life to a great extent. So those are some of the indicators, being tired, low emotional intelligence, not being empathic, this kind of suffocating feeling that I kind of like can't breathe at times, even though you can breathe, but like there's just not that much air, Whenever I see those signs, I try and take a step back and I try and identify, okay, I know I feel symptoms of stress. Where does it come from? Because it can come from a lot of things. And I mentioned that, I'm studying, working, and so usually the stress does not just come of its own. Usually the stress comes because there's something that I'm bad at dealing with, something that I'm not handling well. And what I mean by that is usually the stress I experience will be because I lack an overview of the things I need to do. It is because I have too many things to do and I feel like I have too little time to do it. And so I lose track and lose my focus for what's important right now. It can be missing a number of deadlines for stuff, things that externally are out of my hands, but I try to take ownership of it as if it was in my hands. And finally, one of the things I experience can be inaction. And oftentimes this is a big perpetrator. It is lack of action in something that is important to me. If I don't take action with something I know I should be doing, and that can be just having some kind of conversation, it can be doing some bit of work, advancing something, just a lack of action on something that matters in that specific time or moment or area. And so when I know whether it's a lack of overview of what I need to do, whether it's because I have too many things going on, whether it's a lack of focus or a lack of decision making, I will sit down and I'll maybe take my journal and I'll write out, why am I stressed? And this sounds simple, but if you keep writing and answer your questions truthfully and honestly, you will find the answer. It might not be comfortable and you might feel like this is kind of weird, but if you give it a try, I promise you it'll work. And so sometimes I need to write it out. Sometimes I can just do it from the top of my head, sitting, answering questions out loud. And when I know what the cause is, then I can make a decision, boom, and go do it. And so if I know I'm lacking overview, it's because I have a number of ideas or things I know I need to do in my head, but I'm not writing it down in my today list or the weekly list or a small note. If I don't write things down, they cramp my headspace and I start getting stressed. I've already come to know that. And the same thing can be said with lack of focus. If I'm working on something and I'm not focused with it, I know that I need to set aside distractions and stay focused on that one thing and be extra intentional with doing that right now until I solve whatever it is, and then I can feel like the other things will dissipate. And then finally, if I know it's because I'm not taking action, I'll identify that, find out what is it that I'm not taking action on, and then make that freaking decision. However uncomfortable it is, I will find a way to deal with it as quickly as possible, move the needle in whatever way I can within my circle of influence right now. And then once things start moving, the ball starts rolling, I will immediately feel like the weight has literally been lifted off my shoulders. And that's such an incredible feeling. And obviously I hope that you've had a similar type of experience. And so these are the 3 steps. It is, what are recognizable indicators of stress to you in your life with what you deal with? It is, once you recognize that you're dealing with stress, being able to identify, where does it come from? For you, is it a lack of overview? Is it a lack of focus? Is it a lack of decision making? Where does it come from? And then thirdly, as the last thing, how can you deal with it right now? What's the step you can take right now in this moment to start dealing with it? It might not fix the whole thing, but just the fact that you start dealing with it will get the ball rolling, give you momentum, and then help you get all the way to the end. And the quicker you can go through these cycles whenever you start experiencing stress, the 1, better your life will probably be, but 2, the less likely you are to experience burnout, because you won't be as influenced or impacted by the stress, which oftentimes is part of what causes burnout. And so I hope you can use this video and these 3 simple steps. We're on the way to reach 1,000 subs, so please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like or comment with whatever topic or video that you would want to see next, if you agree, disagree to what I've said in the video. And other than that, as always, stay disciplined.